What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to be continuing my positional review videos from the pricing mistakes video, and today we're going to talk about the midfielders. So everyone loves a midfielder in FPL, the best value or kind of more valued attacker in the game, and with so many premiums in midfield this season, which should you be looking at and which cheaper options can enable that? So in this video, I'm going to take you guys through the more advanced insights than the price per points metric. We're going to be going over value, points, and then both those stats per 90 minutes. So hopefully by the end of this, you guys choose the best midfielders in the game, have a massive FPL season, and hopefully like myself, we can get another top 10k finish. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the first talking point I want to kind of touch on is that with these midfielders, the more premium assets, please don't look at the value or value per 90 minutes too much, just because with these more expensive options, you will be captaining them. So what I mean by that is that the captaincy options usually come from a midfield department. Think of a Salah, a Son, a De Bruyne, that sort of thing. So what you guys can almost do is double their value because they are getting you double points. That's just a small thing to take into account, but this video will highlight the more cheaper options. The value and value per 90 minutes really highlight those cheaper options, so just keep that in mind when I bring up those graphs. But the first graph that you guys are going to see on screen is the exact same one, just being a little bit color corrected according to the positional reviews. So I've got a nicer light blue color here for the midfielders, and this graph kind of combines their points from last season with their price of this season. The red linear regression line shows you the averaging of all these positions, so if they're on the left hand side, they're underpriced, but if they're on the right hand side, they're overpriced. Now, as always, please just take into account that the points metrics are taken over the whole season, so if there are players like a Kulusevski and a Diaz in that 8.0 million department, these options only came in January and therefore only had half a season. But don't worry, we'll take that into account when we look at the per 90 minute stats, and if it actually improves, they wait. Now, if you guys have not watched the video that I went over with the pricing mistakes, I went over this in very general kind of aspects, spoke about the good options, the bad options. But in this video, I want to kind of hone in on the cheaper assets, and that's exactly what the next graph is going to show you. So as I mentioned in that prior video, I said that the left-hand side was really cluttered. So what I did was I took out the premium assets, I shipped them out, even a Jared Bowen at 8.5, and I've only gone up to the 8.0 million midfielders. This gives us a clearer view of the options to kind of look at. I then have adjusted the linear regression line to only compare the options on screen right now. So this is why the graph might be slightly different to the prior one. So in terms of the more premium assets, yes, we might be going for a Salah, we might go for a Son, a De Bruyne over Haaland, even that sort of thing. But in order to afford all these premium assets, we do need some cheaper options. And I don't know about you guys, but in my draft, I have two 8.0 million slots, and therefore I want to get the best midfielder at that price range. So if you guys do cast your eyes to the right-hand side, I'm going to be ignoring Kulusevski and Diaz because unfortunately, as I said, they came in January, but I'll be looking at them in terms of the 90-minute stats. We're then going to move on to Foden and Mahrez because both these two assets returned a similar amount of points, but actually Mahrez played a lot less minutes. With Gabriel Jesus out, Sterling rumored to be going to Chelsea, that move might have been confirmed as you guys are watching this video. But with those two assets out, I honestly think that Mahrez could have a massive season. I do have Foden in my current draft just because I think he's such a quality player. You're not going to be benching the best young player in the world in the Prem from last season, and therefore I think Pep will put him in most of the teams. But now we shift our attention to the top three there. We've got Mount, we've got Saka, and we've got Maddison. Now most people do own Saka, however, Gabriel Jesus is a nice little option at 8.0 in the forward department. Not many people do own Mount. I think he's a great asset to kind of look at if you want to go for a Chelsea option. But Maddison is the really surprising one for me. So if I did ask you guys who was the best 8.0, I think Maddison would have been in no one's kind of selections. And this just shows you that because he's so consistent, he actually might be the best option to look at. Now Leicester's upcoming fixtures aren't that strong, but they kind of have a good fixture, bad one, good one, bad one. They kind of rotate quite easily, but with Maddison, against the better teams as he showed last season, he can even get you some points. So that's the first thing that you guys can take out of this video, is that Maddison is being severely overlooked, and if you guys want to go for an alternative to the template, I think the Leicester midfielder could be a nice one to go for. We're then going to move down the list slightly. I want to talk about Gundogan. Unfortunately, I can't really pick him because with City, you never know the kind of rotation that they're going to have. But what I will say is that 7.0 million Grealish could be a nice little alternative. So with Jackie Grealish, a lot of people have been saying he's going to have a good season. He had the kind of season to filter him into that Man City lineup. On the left-hand side, yes, he will have some rotation there. Maybe a Foden can start on the left, but the majority of games, Grealish should be playing, and therefore I think he could be a nice option at 7.0. But for me, that's a wait and see. I can't bring him in and then I just hope that he starts. I want to see that he's going to be playing for Man City, and that's why I'm going to hold off for him right now and go for one of the more nailed 8.0s. Coming in after that, you've got some options like a Bernardo or a Zaha. I mean, Zaha's always going to play. Bernardo, I think that's because he had a great first half of the season. The second half wasn't as strong, but who kind of knows what's going to happen. Rafinha's a nice little alternative. I think if he does get the move to Chelsea, it's going to be quite interesting to see if he's nailed or not. I mean, just remember with Ziyech, he came in, we thought he'd be nailed, but then he wasn't. But if he does stay at Leeds, that could be a nice little alternative as well. Odegaard's another weird one. I think if he does start most games for Arsenal at that 10, could be a nice alternative to a Saka, maybe even a Martinelli, but I just don't think I can go for him at this stage. To be honest, after that, except for maybe a Martinelli, I can't really look at too many of these options. I know Pedro Neto's on a lot of people's radar, but Wolves had a terrible season last season. He had a bad run of form with injuries, so I'm just hoping that if we do pick him, Wolves rebound, and so does Neto in the preseason and the first couple games. But you guys can pause the video right now if you want to get some more insights, maybe look for an option in that 5 million department, but I want to move on to the next graph right now. So the next graph to go over is probably the most important one that I would be looking at, especially if you guys are going to consider captains. It's going to be the points per 90 minutes or points per game that these players did offer last season. So no surprise there, at the top of the rankings is going to be Mo Salah, best captaincy option in the game. I'm pretty sure that will continue into this new season. So if you guys want to go for a safe option, Mo Salah is the man to go for. But now we get on to some surprises here, and the first one is probably going to be the biggest insight that I'm going to give you guys. It's going to be Riyad Mahrez, and he has the second best points per 90 minutes, so you guys have to basically hope that he starts. What this tells us is that because Mahrez wasn't hype in the rankings, it means that he wasn't getting game time, but when he does, he scores points, and that's why I think with Gabriel Jesus and also Sterling out of the picture, you almost have to go for Mahrez at 8.0. His colleague De Bruyne comes in, another alternative to go for if you guys don't want to go for Haaland. De Bruyne is safe. I think as long as he stays injury-free, gets you points. And then up next is going to be Heung-min Son. So Heung-min Son's an interesting one because if you kind of have all these players playing the same amount of minutes, this tells you that Son will score the 4th highest points, which is quite surprising after such a good season. But I still think that Son's a great option to go for, but when you cast your eyes down a bit, you see Kulusevski there, and this is what I was telling you guys about starting in January, not having as many points as the other players, but when you look at his per 90 stats, the 8.0 million Spurs midfielder is great value for money. Sterling up next. I mean, he's not playing for Man City. How are Chelsea going to adapt him if he does sign there? But the next player, as I mentioned, Maddison, had a great season. So this slide offers some massive conclusions there. I would say that Mahrez is the City midfielder to go for. I think that Son's a great asset, but so is Kulusevski if you guys can fit him in. I do worry about Richarlison, but I think the Ginger Sweet's too good to drop at the current moment. I don't think Conte is going to drop him anytime soon. And then also Maddison, a great 8.0 option also to look at, but I think you guys have to target those lovely Leicester fixtures as simply there's so many options in that price bracket. But as with the previous graph, you guys can pause the video right now if you guys want to go for some more insights, but I've offered you my conclusions already, so let's get on to the next one. So now going on to the value graph, which is going to be the points per million or points per price that they currently come in as. And if you guys did watch the pricing mistakes video, you'll know who the top 3 are. It's going to be Ward-Prowse, it's going to be Bowen, and it's going to be Gallagher. So the cheaper options here are providing some good value for money. However, I don't know how sustainable these options are. Ward-Prowse with those free kicks. I mean, Bowen's a quality player, but hopefully he can replicate the form he showed last season. Gallagher back at Chelsea, who knows what's going to happen. And then obviously we have Benrahma and Maddison, as well as Saka, who I think provide good value. Other than that though, we've got some nice mix of options. I think the more premium assets come slightly more down than these good value options, but just think about that. They're almost double in price, but they're still returning some good value, so they just score so many points. This graph, unfortunately, I can't really say too much because it does offer some cheaper options, but if you guys want to go for 1 or 2 cheaper assets, maybe you've gone for a stacked defense, you want some 6.5s or 6 million midfielders, just pause the video right now, look at these graphs, but as I said, I can't really offer too much insight here. The one thing I will say is going to be Diaz, and unfortunately in terms of value hasn't really returned the points per his price tag, but just remember that he only started half the games this season, and I think this upcoming season will have a much better output. But now we're going to kind of combine all these insights into one, and that's going to be the value per 90 minutes. So what this is, it's value which is going to be points per price or points per million, then I've also divided that by 90 minutes or per game. And as you guys can see on screen right now, Visa from Brentford is going to be the best value per 90 minutes player that FPL does currently offer in that midfield department. So if you guys want to go for a little bit of an out there punt, not going for an Ivan Toney or going for an Mbumo, Visa is a nice little alternative. Brentford have a great run of fixtures coming up, so I think the midfielder could be the one to kind of look at if you guys want to go for an alternative, and he does come in quite cheap. Olise from Crystal Palace offers great value if he does start. However, there have been some injury concerns, and Crystal Palace forward department has so many good youngsters, I just don't really know if he's going to play that many minutes. But up next is pretty much going to be one of my favorites of this video. It's going to be Riyad Mahrez, not only in points per 90 minutes, but value per 90 minutes. He comes in third, and that's why I think the Algerian has to be on your team if you're going to be going for a Man City midfielder. Naby Keita, surprising entry. Smith Rowe, we know how good he is. We then have Bruno from Newcastle that comes in at quite a cheap price, but also a good value price. But I just don't know how sustainable he is because last season had a great run of form, but hopefully that does continue into this new season. But other than that, I did also cut this off at 0.7. Jorginho kind of knocking in there, but I don't really know how many people will go for him. But other than that, there are some other alternatives that you guys can pause the monitor right now and look for your favorites. So concluding this graphic, I would say that Visa is being overlooked. I think if you guys want to go for a cheap alternative to Mbeumo or maybe even an Ivan Toney, I would look at him. I think he could provide a nice little 5th or 4th midfielder slot if you want to go for him. But other than that, Mahrez yet again providing some good value stats. Then also Kulusevski has caught my eye in that stat, and I think I might actually have to include him in my first draft. Let me know what you guys are thinking about these midfielders. Yes, we have the more premiums, but who's your favorite cheaper option to go for? Is it a Visa or is it maybe another option at 6.5, 7, 7.5, that sort of thing? And who's your best 8.0 midfielder that you currently have? I actually think that this video has made me change my mind on a couple of these options in my draft, so make sure you guys keep your eyes out for an updated draft coming up probably on Friday. But this is your video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the final entry into this department, which is going to be the forwards coming up tomorrow or maybe even in 2 days time. So keep your eyes on that. But otherwise, I'll see you guys on my Twitter page or on my Discord. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.